Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if you are new. My name is Nastasia, and I'm sick again. Happy 2019. Please excuse my voice and lack of energy, but I wanted to pump out these videos for you guys. And today we're talking all about perfectionism and kind of overcoming it, hence the no makeup face. Also because I'm sick and ran out of dry shampoo. And this is just what it is, okay? Like, this is today, and I am okay with it. You're gonna be okay with it too. So I've said in previous videos that I consider myself a recovering perfectionist. I have kind of always been, but recently, like in the past year or so, I've like kind of discovered that I am, and that it can actually be really hard for me with like my anxiety and depression and stuff. So we're talking about today and kind of some practical ways to actually overcome perfectionism, because it's easy for somebody to just say like, oh, just don't be a perfectionist. But like, if you're a perfectionist, you know that that's like the most impossible thing you can do is not be perfect, or try to be at least. So today I'm talking about some actual practical steps that can kind of help you out. Before I get into it, if you end up liking this video and my sick Stas voice and my makeup-less face, give it a big thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel so you never miss out on a video every time I post. First thing I want to talk about is actually super relevant, and it is just go in public not looking perfect all the time. Just once in a while. Like for me, I'm literally putting videos of myself on the internet with nothing going on, makeup wise or hair wise or anything, and just letting yourself be vulnerable, like physically in that way, like just showing yourself kind of to the world in a non-perfect state where you can't like perfect all your imperfections. I literally have zero makeup on right now, guys. Like, I have some chapstick. That's it. But like, seeing all the flaws, all the dark circles, the hair, the way it is, all of that. And I'm not saying you have to do that all the time, but just like once in a while, just to show you that people really won't treat you that differently. People will love you for you, not for how you portray yourself to the world. Now, I love makeup and I love feeling pretty. I love just the idea of doing makeup and the art behind it and stuff like that. So I still do makeup, but just on the days that you want to go out and like you don't have time or blah, 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 don't be like, oh, I have to put on makeup so that I can go in public. No, you can go in public without it. And I think that's a good first step in kind of overcoming any kind of perfectionism. The second tip that I have started doing recently is creating something that you cannot start over if you mess up. For me, that's my bullet journal. I got it for Christmas, and I didn't really know how to start, but I just was gonna start. And with a bullet journal, you can't really like, once you put something down in ink, you can't just kind of like tear out the page like it's a journal. It just keeps going. So like, for instance, I made a January page, like cover page, and I hate the J in January, and I hate the snowflakes I made for the cover page. Like, that might sound stupid to you guys because it's just a private journal for me, but it drives me freaking up a wall, and I have to see it every single time. But I decided that I was just gonna go with it, because what, I'm gonna buy a whole new journal? No. And I think it's a good way for me to be able to see like a flaw that was not perfect, that was not up to my like perfectionist standards, and still go with it. And so whether that be like creating something artistic or creating music or something like that, that maybe the note that you hit when you're singing isn't as perfect as you want, and still going with it anyway and accepting yourself that way. I'm not saying we don't ever like keep trying harder and stuff like that, but sometimes it can get to an unhealthy level where you're never perfect enough for yourself. So creating something that you know specifically when you mess up, it's gonna stay there, and you can make the best of it, and you can turn it into something else, or you can let it be, and being okay with it. The next tip, which is this is something I've been working on recently, is before you just apologize, think for a minute if you are actually at fault for anything. Because I know for me, being a perfectionist, I will always try to find a way to blame myself, like literally always, which in some cases isn't a bad thing because you're trying to take responsibility for certain things, or you're trying to be like, selfless and, kind of like you're trying to be an adult. You're trying to not just point everything at other people and be like, I probably could have done this better and stuff like that. But there are some circumstances where it's really not your fault and you can have grace and forgiveness, but if you don't have anything to apologize for, you don't have to apologize just because you feel like, oh, well, if I could have just been more perfect in this situation, maybe they wouldn't have treated me that way. Or maybe they wouldn't have blah, blah, blah. I'm sorry for being me. I'm sorry for this. I'm sorry for that. Like, I should be better. Like, no. That is a lie. And, I think that's something that we can all take is before you just aimlessly apologize for yourself, the way you are, all this stuff, if you don't even know what you're apologizing for, think about it first, because there's power in our words, and also there's power in the way you say, like, speak to yourself too. So if you're saying like, oh, I'm sorry, I wish I was different, I wish I wasn't like this, I wasn't, and none of it was your fault in the first place, then you are putting all this blame on yourself, and your mind is telling you, like, you are telling your brain, everything is my fault. Even when I don't mess up, it's my fault. And so you're taking on everybody else's burdens, and that's not your place. You have to set boundaries of what is actually your fault and what isn't, and know that if it is somebody else's fault, it's not your responsibility to push them to apologize, and it's not your responsibility to take the fall. Going along with that, this is something that I saw and I thought it was a really good idea, was the idea of saying thank you before you just say I'm sorry. The idea of that being, if you're late to something, say, hey, thank you so much for being patient and waiting on me. I really appreciate it, and it doesn't go unnoticed or something. Instead of just being like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm late, I'm sorry. Like, and that's something I work on too, because I feel like that doesn't mean you don't have to apologize when you mess up or whatever, but being more frequent to say thank you for doing this, I think it also makes you grateful, and it also, instead of putting everything on you and everything about you, it makes it about the other person, of like, thank you for being so patient with me, or if you're saying like, oh, I'm sorry I'm like this, I'm sorry that I'm so emotional or something, you can say, thank you for letting me be vulnerable, or thank you for listening to me, thank you for being so caring with me. I think that literally makes such a difference in how other people perceive you, and also how you perceive yourself in that moment. You're no longer like the victim to yourself. You are grateful, you are thankful, you have good people in your life, and you can acknowledge that. Next tip is remind yourself in those moments of God's grace, and why you need a savior in the first place, because it can be, for me being a perfectionist, I can get in a really bad headspace where it's actually pretty selfish that I expect myself to be perfect, because if that were the case, I wouldn't need God. Like, I wouldn't need Jesus. So expecting myself to be perfect is expecting me to be on the same level of God, and that's not possible. That being said, we're always striving to be more like Jesus every day, but knowing that we can't be, and that we have to accept his grace. And if he died on the cross for all of your other sins, did he not die for that as well? Like, is your imperfection, your like mess up of the day, your faults, anything like that, is that too big for God? Is that did his die on the cross not cover that? Like, when you put it that way, it makes such a difference, because then you realize, wow, like, I can't believe I'm making it seem like I would have the power to mess up so bad that God's blood, like Jesus, the blood of Jesus, wouldn't cover it. And so I think reminding yourselves of some verses on grace, you can always, if you already know some, if you already have some highlighted in your Bible, that's great, or you can Google some. I mean, you can just Google like Bible verses about God's grace, and read those, and it will remind you that you are not the first imperfect person. You are one of every single human who has ever been imperfect. So, except for Jesus, of course, but he was God and human. And so just remembering that, I think, brings my feet back on the ground a little bit. All right, this is a tricky one. and it is to purposely be imperfect. So that could mean maybe you follow like a checklist or something like that, and every day, if you don't check one of those boxes, like if it's bedtime and one of those boxes is unchecked, you can't go to bed without checking it off and actually doing it. Or if you do go to bed like without doing it, you feel guilty and shame, and you feel like I'm not good enough, I haven't completed everything, I am lazy, I should have done this better, or something like that. I can be like that sometimes. Something to do is, I'm not saying purposely procrastinate, that's not what I'm trying to get at, but like if it comes to like it's nighttime, you're about to go to bed, you're tired, and there's something on your checklist that you didn't do and you're exhausted and you can't do it, decide to save it for the next day, and also decide to release that false guilt and shame upon you, because it's not real, it's from the enemy, and the longer you dote on it, the longer he has his claws in you. Checklists don't have a moral compass. Like, checklists do not have any kind of moral value on your soul. Everything of moral value is about the heart and where your heart's at. So if you don't go to the gym one day, that doesn't mean you're a lazy person. It doesn't mean this and this and this about you. It doesn't doom your future. It means that you didn't get to go today, but you can go tomorrow, and it's gonna be okay. I've noticed a lot of like perfectionists, the things that bother them most are usually small things, that they just wish they were better and better and better, and especially it builds up and like makes them implode. Or maybe they couldn't be as perfect to other people as they want to be, and as they want to put out like the image of being, and so then whenever you like accidentally hurt somebody, or you are confused in a situation, or ends up in something, you end up putting all the blame on yourself because you should have been perfect. You should have been this and this and this. But people are human. Like, it happens. And being able to go to bed at night after maybe you've messed up and not pounding yourself over the head for being human. I'm not saying being like, well, I hurt somebody, too bad. Like, there's a place for that, and there's a place for repenting and asking for forgiveness. But if somebody forgives you, you have to forgive yourself. And even if they don't forgive you, you have to forgive yourself. You have to keep going. All right, and this is my last thing to say, is remember that your imperfections are actually what makes you attractive. And I know that might sound off a little bit, but this is something that I genuinely do. If I look up to somebody, like if I look up to a YouTuber or someone in fitness or something like that, and I go on their Instagram, and it's usually a lot of women who motivate me and stuff because I'm a girl, and so if I'm looking on their Instagram, and if every single picture is perfect, I'm not inspired. Like, I'm not, and maybe you are by those people, but I am way, way more inspired by the people. Like, this is literally what I do. If I see that they have like a perfect profile picture and a perfect picture they post, I go into their feed and I start scrolling to try to find one without makeup on. I'm so serious. That's the first thing I do. Without even realizing I'm doing it, I automatically do that. I go to their feed and I go scrolling to see if there's one where they look like they have a flaw, where they have a double chin, where they don't look their perfect best. And once I find it, it makes them so much more inspirational to me. It makes them so much more beautiful. I don't know why, but I think it's because we are intimidated by perfection a little bit. Like, I wouldn't want to date somebody who was perfect all the time. I would feel like nothing. I would feel awful, and I would feel like I can't be around this. And just to get vulnerable with you for a second, that's why some of my breakups have occurred in the past, is because people have literally said, like, I feel like I'm not good enough for you. Not because you make me feel that way, but because, like, you seem so perfect, and I can't measure up. And it sucks to hear that and be like, wow, so now I'm too perfect for people, but it's because I genuinely was so good at hiding my flaws at covering up anything that could be seen as less than perfection that it actually drives people away. You might not believe that if you're a perfectionist. You might be like, yeah, whatever, everybody wants perfection. Not true. It's not true at all. If I find an account of somebody I think I'm like motivated or inspired by, and all of their pictures are incredibly perfect and it doesn't seem they have a single flaw in their life, I get so bored. I don't even follow them. Like, that might seem like condescending or something, but it's the truth. Like, and that's why I do videos like this too, where I'm literally raspy and holding a snotty tissue in my hand and sick and gross and have oily hair and no makeup and disgusting feeling, because I want you guys to know I'm real, as I grab another paper towel tissue, and that I am working on it. And I want to be vulnerable and I want to be an open book for people. So I think that is something that you should remember. Your quirks, your imperfections are literally what makes you beautiful. And I'm not just saying that. Like, I've been learning that so much. Like, that is what I find the most lovable about people. Is I think back and I think about them falling asleep on my couch and snoring and remembering that and being like about my friends or something and being like, wow, I freaking love them. Like, that's literally what I think of. Or I don't know, when they're like sick and stuff and I can help them out or something. Like, those are the moments that make me love my friends, or something like that. And I think that's something to keep in mind, that you are honestly more lovable the more genuine you are with your flaws and with your faults. And I want you to embrace that if you can. I need a tissue break. Glad I got to film this for you guys. I love you so much. I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave a comment down below of, are you a recovering perfectionist as well? Or what tips do you have for perfectionists, maybe for me, that I can take and kind of learn from? And I'm sure I'll do more videos like this in the future, but I wanted to get one out there today. I love you guys so much, and I will see you next time.